Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Necessity Talk Show. Today we have a very special guest, somebody who's actually helped me personally in life and, is honestly somebody who I look at as a mentor. Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Collins.
Thank you for inviting me. I
Of
look
course.
forward to having this conversation with you and many, many more.
Of course. Introduce yourself a little bit. So tell us your story.
My name is Tony Collins. I grew up in California. I went to school in Washington, D.C. I have lived in 5 or 6 places. Lancaster's most recent. Before that, Washington, D.C. I run a crisis management company. Um, Mostly in Florida and DC until I moved to Lancaster, and then I think the first year I was here, I ended up working for 3 clients in Lancaster. All that stuff is confidential, but it was a surprising amount of work. And so I think of myself as a business person, but also a social activist and interested in how to change my practice in addition to crisis management is community change. And that's what I help my clients do, and that's what I'm interested in.
What is community change to you? What does that mean to you?
It means trying to make the communities better, move in a way toward, in my opinion, a greater democracy, more economic vitality. The shorthand, we call it JEDI.
Okay.
And this doesn't have anything to do with Star Wars,
Yeah.
but we're still a little bit. JEDI, justice,
Mm-hmm.
equity,
Mm-hmm.
diversity, and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And the short version of that is DEI, but what I've discovered, what I feel, what I've been told is that you can't have diversity, equity, and inclusion without justice.
Mm-hmm.
So those things mix together. If a community is engaged in that and look in that direction, I want to be there, I want to help.
Mm-hmm. And kind of, I know you said it's kind of confidential with you, like your clients and stuff, but kind of tell us about like what's your role in that position?
With my clients,
Yeah.
typically you hire me in crisis management if something really significant happened to your company or your community.
So you're kind of like a problem solver?
Yes, mine is generally done through communication, but so I've worked on corporate problems, companies that have had been involved in major disasters. I've worked with individuals high-profile individuals that could be called celebrities who've had challenges. Some of the more mundane things, work with lawyers or companies trying to change direction.
Mm-hmm.
Companies trying to create a new narrative. So typically, I get invited in as somebody has their business or their career or their image has stumbled. Work with them to try and figure out how to improve that or get it back on an even keel. Many times they ask me to stay around as what we call a trusted advisor. So stay engaged and say, what do we do next?
Mm-hmm. So backtracking just a little bit, what brought you into Lancaster?
I was in D.C. and operated my business in Washington, D.C. and in Florida. And my wife got recruited to run the YWCA in Lancaster, which I was like, okay, I don't really know where that is,
Yeah.
but I'll find it. And the YWCA is fascinating because I did not know at the time, but it has one mission, which is to eliminate racism and to empower women. That fascinated me. I encouraged her to take the job, and for the first couple of years I was here, she was working to help take the Y forward, and I was commuting to DC and Florida vis-a-vis the Amtrak.
Mm-hmm.
Then the pandemic happened,
Yeah.
and that cut down my travel and gave me an opportunity to focus on Lancaster.
Mm-hmm. What do you see? What do you think about Lancaster? Like, how's it been since you've been here?
So the good thing is that I was fascinated. I didn't expect it to meet people like you, people with talent and aspiration.
Thank you.
I read things in the New York Times that said Lancaster is this wonderful place. It's sort of like the new Brooklyn. I said, okay, that's what I said. That's interesting. I think that's an exaggeration.
A little bit.
People.
We'll take it though.
I mean, it was a nice story. It was a good pitch. But then I got here and I heard everybody I seemed to meet in Lancaster said, "Oh, we're so diverse," and I was like, okay, I don't really know what they mean by that. I looked around and it's true. There are lots of different people with international backgrounds and relations and families in Lancaster. That's true. But Lancaster is also very segregated. So is it diverse? Are there lots of people with different backgrounds and from different countries and so? Yes. But it's a very segregated place in the sense that not everybody, you don't see a lot of mixing and melding. You're either in a room with people who are all X or all Y or all Z. So when I think of it is it has great opportunities because the people like you here, who, it's fascinating to me that you have the aspirations you do because I don't feel that this environment supports in particular people of color and more particularly black people. I don't feel that. But I see the talent here and the aspiration, some of the genius, and that fascinates me. And then the other side of it is that Lancaster seems very convinced that it is just fine the way it is. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of effort, I'm going to exclude you from that, of trying to change or move forward into the 21st century. So it's complicated, it's conflicting.
How do you think, in your opinion, can Lancaster put its best step forward in order to change that and become more diverse and less segregated?
So it's fascinating. So Lancaster, I have an interest in history, and what fascinated me is that Lancaster is the home of Thaddeus Stevens and Lydia Hamilton Smith. So they were, Thaddeus Stevens was a congressman. He helped write the Emancipation Amendments, 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. He was way ahead of his times in terms of ending slavery, but he also, surprising me when I read about it, he passed a bill, or attempted to pass a bill, requiring reparations for all black people. Do you know, I mean, it was 1865, 1866. Somebody in Lancaster was talking about reparations for black people throughout the country.
This is news to me. I didn't know this. Yeah.
It's a fascinating story. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's just like mind-boggling. Thaddeus Stevens, what I discovered, is not popular outside, or not well known outside of Lancaster. There aren't any movies about him or what he did, but he was very instrumental. He probably pushed Lincoln along to do the Emancipation Proclamation. He definitely pushed Congress. He made statements. I have written an essay, I should share it with you, that I think Thaddeus Stevens was the first one who said it, not necessarily in these words, but he was one of the first people in this country to say, Black Lives Matter.
Really?
Black Lives Matter starts here. If you want to go back and look what Thaddeus Stevens would say, it starts here in Lancaster. Not that phrase, but he said, we will not be a great country until we understand that we have got to incorporate the black people in this country into all aspects of it. And we won't do that without economic reparations. It's also sort of fascinating because when he died, one of the things he refused to do is be buried in a cemetery that was segregated. So he's buried in a cemetery here that was one of the first integrated cemeteries in all of Pennsylvania, probably. So he walked the walk, he talked the talk. His monument says, I chose to be buried here. So that excites me about Lancaster because that was the history. What I would like to see is Lancaster get back to that kind of spirit, to have the leadership of Lancaster saying, however they want to say it, Black Lives Matter, and we've got to do something to repair the damage that was done to the black people that came to this country economically. We've got to mainstream that. And so if I could wave a wand, I would say, make that happen, or at least let's get back to what Thaddeus Stevens was saying.
Yeah. And what can young black people or people of color even do in like their positions that don't know where to start or like how to get into these positions?
Mm-hmm.
How can they move forward?
So, I'm a big believer in entrepreneurship, which is why I like what you're doing. So I think that the first thing that they can do is, this is going to sound, I did steal from somebody. The first thing that I would like to see young black people do in Lancaster is get into Yes We Can and make that what they think about every day. And it's not going to be easy because there isn't a lot of support around that I can see for people like yourself, where somebody's saying to you, Amir, you can do it. Yes, you can. You can be the next Michael B. Jordan. You can be the next film director. You can do that. You can do it right here, right now, tomorrow. So first they're going to have to, in my opinion, get that for themselves. Yes, we can. And that's really old school. It's the kind of stuff my dad used to say to me when he was waking me up at 5:30 in the morning. But the spirit was, yes, you can. You're going to have to go do it. And it may look like you're by yourself for a long time, but you're standing on the shoulders of a lot of other people. So I would do that. Then I would ask them to pay attention to what goes on around them and to try to grab the brass ring. What I worry about in Lancaster is that so many people are convinced that they cannot get out of the situation they're currently in, that there's no pathway. And what that ends up manifesting itself in people don't try, or lots of people just complain. Then there's a few like you. I want to give a shout out to Sir Dominic Jordan as another example of that.
He was just on the show last week. Yeah.
I talked to he's one of the first people I met when I came here. There was a rapper, poet, Gil Scott Heron, that Dom and I talk about. There's a song called Message to the Messengers, and what it's about him. Gil Scott Heron's talking to young people and telling them, you can do this. You may have to cut out some things, you may have to try harder, but the one thing he keeps saying over and over again throughout the song is keep the nerve. Keep your nerve. Keep thinking you can do it. Dom and I have been talking about that for 3 years.
Yeah.
Keep your nerve. Keep going after it, even when nobody else is feeling it. And that's what's going to happen. And then one day you're going to be up there, and everybody's going to be looking at you, and you're going to say, "I knew it."
Yeah.
But Jalen Hurts, the Eagles quarterback.
Oh yeah.
It's the same example. They were last year. They were saying Jalen Hurts. Well, we may have to cut him. We may have to go get a real quarterback. We may have to do all this. He just kept the nerve. Just kept working at it. Kept coming. Now he's in the MVP conversation. But a year ago, if he'd been sitting here with an interview with you, he'd have been saying people are doubting him. So my recipe is one, say to yourself, yes, you can, keep the nerve, and then follow your passion. And try to surround yourself with people who want to support that passion. And it's not going to be easy.
Yeah. What got you into this conversation and just like in this like diaspora of like social justice and wanting to see change?
Yeah, that's interesting. So my dad's military, and I come from a very religious family. And my dad, I didn't realize when I was growing up that he put a lot of energy into me and my brother and sisters to say, here's how you can get from point A to point B. And he sacrificed a lot of things there. I first interpreted that as, okay, go get a job in the corporate world, be in business, toe the line, and be very successful in that. And I pursued that, my brother pursued that, my whole family did that. And along the way, I realized that was personal. That was about me as an individual, but it wasn't necessarily moving, wasn't changing the world. I there's a million times I found myself in a boardroom as the only black person in the room. And there's a million slights that go with being there, a million insults. I remember being in a meeting with a major client, a shipping company. We're talking about how to internationalize this company. And in the middle of it, the CEO of the company, the owner says, and I guess I can speak bluntly here, he says, I don't know what we're gonna do if we don't get those niggas off the dock. And he said it, he didn't blink, he's talking to me and my associate, and he doesn't, it's just like he didn't, he couldn't even see me. And I stopped for a second and I'm like, what did he say? I was so stunned that I didn't really react. And he was so comfortable with me in that situation, he just said it right out loud. He said the bad part out loud. And I left that day and I said, okay, I am way too far into this corporate world where somebody that paying us a lot of money can sit there and start to talk about niggas, and I don't even know what to do, to think or whatever. I said, okay, that has to end. I can't do that anymore. I don't. For him, as bad as he wanted me, I fired him as a client. But I found myself, I said, I don't want to ever be in a room where somebody feels comfortable saying that to me, or in my presence. That was the start of it, and then, I started being more active, and I was in Charlottesville when the march, the white rights struggle went on, and on the street when Heather Heyer got killed. And it was another sort of slap in the face that's 2017, 2018, that in this country, in that time, in the state capital of Virginia, or where the University of Virginia is, this many people can come and say that kind of stuff and kill people. With me standing right there, my life could have been gone just like that. So okay, I can't stand here anymore and just do it. So I find my own ways. I do things corporately and fundraising and trying to support the causes like Black Lives Matter, which is Black Artist Way Station in Lancaster. But I've done the corporate thing. I follow my father's precept: work hard, get someplace. Now, if I don't do something about social justice, I feel like I'm just not getting it done.
I want to be conscious of your time.
Okay.
And this has been a great conversation. But one last question: what advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out and they want to get started? What would you say to them? What would you say to them? What kind of encouragement or advice would you give to someone?
I would advise them to look into themselves and ask themselves, there's a book called What is Your Talent? What is your gift? And to look for your genius. And then find it and pursue it. Now when I say that, I also want to say at the same time, while you're pursuing your genius, it's okay to figure out how to do something, side hustles or whatever, to support yourself. I don't want anybody to starve. I'm not about go starve until you get to be a star. That's not a good idea. Have a plan. I guess the biggest thing is I would say to them, look, you are a rare commodity, each individual. You need to market yourself, treat yourself that way, and try to figure out, spend as much time on your image and your product, which is you, as you do on social media. When people on the gram or wherever, people are blowing up their social media, and they spend a whole lot of time working on their image for the public. I want them to spend as much time working on the reality. You working on your skills and your talents. I've been watching you for year now, maybe more.
Yeah,
And
all over here.
I see you keep working at it, staying in it. I want to take advantage of some things I think are going to happen here in Lancaster. I want to know you when you're doing a Broadway play or a
Motion
GQ
picture,
layout
yeah.
or a motion picture.
Yeah.
I think it's within the realm of possibility. So I would say, go grab your dream and understand that you have to work at it every day like you do social. Like, I'm not talking about you,
Mm-hmm. No, you're
like you're doing social media,
Mm-hmm.
and think of yourself as that product, and keep saying yes, we can, and make it about making your community, this community, a better place for everybody.
Yeah.
So I would probably say that. I would also tell them, frankly, to have, if I was going to give them some advice, check you out. Look at I'm trying to think of the name of your business now.
Right now, we're going by necessity.
Necessity.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what Amir is doing, because he is doing it right here in Lancaster.
Yeah.
And as near as I can tell, not everybody in Lancaster is running around trying to help him. So find those kind of people. My dad did that for me. He just would get up every day and go make it happen, and I got to see him do that.
Thank you. Tell the people where they can find you, or foundations that you would love them to donate to, or anything along the lines of that.
Well, you can find me. I have a website called truthshine.org. It's a nonprofit that talks about telling the truth about Black history in America. You can go on that website. My email address is there. I would, if you want to do something, I would urge you to get the Lancaster County, led by the YWCA, just put out an equity study recently. It just announced. It talks about all the things that need to be changed here in Lancaster. Go look at it online, and you'll see. Here's what I'll do. If you're Black or brown in this community, and you have a college degree, doesn't matter, and experience, no matter how much experience and education you have, you're still going to make less money than your white counterparts. We have to change that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, if you got time and energy, go get involved with that. We can change it. We have to change it, and we have to point out that it's just wrong. It's not justice. It's not equity. It's not diversity. It's damn sure not inclusion.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So,
thank you very much.
All
Thank you
right.
for this conversation,
Appreciate
man.
it.
I appreciate it.
yeah.